So now we're going to learn about Fusion 360, which will, in our class, allow us to create models that are 3D models to be printed by the 3D printers. The Fusion 360 can do a lot of things. It can help you design stuff, which is what we're doing. If you click on this little box in the upper left, you can see there's a design function. That's where we're going to be all the time in this class, is in the design. You can do fancier designs where you're changing out parts. You can use computer-aided manufacturing where you end up designing a part to be built by a machine, not a 3D printer, but something like a mill or a CNC router. We have both of those in the Fab Lab, but those are used by the advanced classes. You can animate and simulate things to see how they behave in real life, or you could actually do some drawing. You can also create electronic circuit boards, and it can use a circuit board printing machine that we have also available to us in the Fab Lab. If you look at this program interface here in the very top left, you will see that there is a data panel, which is where your files live. When you click on that, you'll be able to see all of your files. The version number is how many times you saved it. Each time you save it, it saves a version, so that means you can actually go back in history in the event that you want to go back to something before you changed something. And you can look at people you're sharing files with. You can create folders for your files, all kinds of stuff there. So this is where you'll find your files. Everything is saved to the cloud. Next is a paper icon that allows you to create new designs, open designs, export files for 3D printing or for others to use, that kind of stuff. This little icon here is the old school floppy icon. It's something that you guys never really have used probably in your life, but it's a floppy disk icon that means to save your work. You will have to press that to save your work. It doesn't automatically save for you that I know of. This is the undo button, this little back arrow. This is the redo button to go forward. Undo and redo can function in this, but you have to be careful because there are things that you can do that relate to other objects, and it can have quite a bit of an effect. There is another way to look through your history of actions, and it'll be down here in the bottom, and we'll talk about that in a bit. This is the open tabs that you have for your projects. Right now there's just one tab called Untitled, and there is a plus icon. Whenever you do that, you're making a new document or a new project that you could be working on. The clock icon here is for updates of Fusion. You can see that it says there's a new version, and it'll install that version when I restart Fusion. I'll do that next time. Working online, that means that my stuff will get sent to the cloud. The little outlet icon here is for extensions. We won't use any extensions in this class. That allows you to add capability to Fusion. The bell icon is for notifications of what's going on, if you have projects that are running and things like that. Question mark gets you help. There's lots of help and learning available there. And then the little picture allows you to access your profile and your account. We can look at preferences. The preferences are the settings for Fusion. We won't really touch any of these for the most part. And as I said earlier, I don't think it does any automated saving. I've not seen it automatically save anything, mostly because that could cause lots of problems depending on what you're doing, but I don't see any option for auto saving. All right, so let's work our way around. This is called the browser. As you build stuff in your design, you will get different things that you can look at over here. This allows you to select objects and sketches and create things. This is a very handy list right here. The first one being the top, units. By default, the units are in millimeters. If you double click or you click on the little icon next to it, you will get a menu and you can change it to another unit. We'll use millimeters for now. Down here, you'll see comments. You could actually enter in comments on your models if you need to, or in various stages of your saving of versions. These play menu, this looking like little like player icons, like YouTube or something like that. That's because down here is what's called a history. You will see a number of behaviors, things that you have done to your model show up in here. And this allows you to move through history because you can actually edit, go backwards in history and change things in the past, and then it'll affect things into the future, which is really handy if we design things properly. So if we need to make a change, we can do that in the history, which will show up down here. These bottom icons are helpful, especially for if you're using a touchpad. If you're using a regular mouse, left click and drag allows you to select things. Dragging from the top left to the bottom right is different from the top right to the bottom left. You see there is yellow and it's dashed lines versus a, I don't know, an orange peach color and a blue solid line. That shows it selects objects differently when doing that. When you right click, you'll get a right click menu. If you can middle click because you have a mouse, that middle click is touching the scroll wheel and pressing down on it. While you hold the middle click, you can move around your view. It's called panning your view. On a laptop, some of those might be harder to do. So down here, you can change your mode. If you want to pan, you click on the hand icon. You'll see that the mouse changes to the pan mode, and then left clicking and dragging will allow it to pan. So if you need to pan using the using a laptop and you don't know what the middle mouse is, then that's what you can do is just do that, is go into pan mode. Orbit mode allows you to spin or change the view, and you can, I think there's a little down arrow here, and you can constrain or free orbit. By default it's in a constrained orbit, so it stops you from doing too goofy of things. When in doubt, I'll show you this house icon up here. It resets your view, which is really handy. All right. You have zoom in, zoom out. That's the same thing as scrolling with your mouse. Sometimes pinch zooming would work on your mouse pad, depending on how it's set up. You can zoom to fit. You can change some display settings, which we won't really need. This is another one that may be useful. The grid icon, layout grid. The layout grid is this grid. It's very important to keep on. I usually keep that on. I keep on grid lock, snap to grid, and then some other settings down there that I just leave on by default. Sometimes I'll turn off snap to grid if I'm drawing something, but usually I leave snap to grid turned on because I want things to be very precise and at the same distance. And then viewports, we don't really change any of the viewports because we don't create multiple views right now. In the upper right is your view cube. This is a really important object. This allows you left click and drag, and it'll allow you to move your view around. And if you just left click and tap, it'll change your view to that location, and these little arrows will spin the view around all those different orientations. And then the home icon, you click that and it sends you back to the home view, which is pretty handy. So things that we have to get used to are, left clicking to select stuff, right clicking to get menu options, middle clicking to pan around or use the little hand icon, and the view cube. Those will all be really important for you as we move forward. So let's play around a little bit with making an object, and then we'll also work with selecting things and show you how that's different. So we're going to make a dice, like a dice that would be used in a game, a six-sided dice. So we go up here and we're going to click on create, and we'll choose box. When you do that, the three-dimensional planes will show up. XY, which is between red and green, XZ, which is between red and blue, and YZ, which is between green and blue. It doesn't really matter which one you choose for this situation, but I'm going to choose the XY. And when you do that, now your mouse turns into a little crosshair. You can see this little crosshair that shows up. And it's pretty important to get used to locking things to important features, such as the origin. The origin is this center thing, the little circle with the little half-shaded quarters in it. And we're going to lock the corner of our cube to the origin. That's important because then when we hit the home view, we know that our cube will be visible. So I'm going to left click once there, and as I move my mouse away, I can see distances start to show up. Now I could just left click and place it somewhere, whatever distance, but often we're going to be measuring and doing things to a precise distance. So you can see that 38.371 is lit up. I'm going to type 30 because I want it to be 30 millimeters, and as soon as I do that, it gets the little lock icon, meaning that I have set that distance to be a specific distance. Then I will press the Tab key and do 30 also. So now those two distances are locked and I have a square. Then I'll hit Enter to accept those two. Now you'll see a menu come up, a little submenu, and the submenu will always show whatever dimension you're currently changing. So in this case, it's the height of the cube. This menu here shows everything about that body. It shows that it's got 30 millimeter width, 30 millimeter length, its height of 5, and it's going to become a new body in our design. So what you could do, we're going to make this a 30 millimeter tall cube. You could left click on the arrow in the center, that blue arrow, and just drag it upwards until it reads 30, which is right there. Or you can type into this dimension box there, 30, and hit enter. Either way. Once you do that, you now have a cube. So let's try and add some little dice pips. They're kind of called. They're little half circle dips into the faces of the cube. And we're going to do it to very particular faces so we can practice moving our view around. So in the upper right, we see our cube, and it's looking at this corner right here. That's the home view. We're going to switch that to the front view. So if I left click on front, it slides the view to the front of the dice, and I can scroll in with my mouse, and I can pan with the middle mouse button to get it nice and centered. Now I'm going to hit create. I'm going to choose sphere. When you do that, it's going to ask, just like we did with the cube, it's going to ask where you want to place it. But you only see one plane right now because that's the only plane that's visible in this view, because we have an XZ view, this front face. And so we're going to left click on this face that we can see, and we're going to that'll set the placement of our sphere to be on that face of the cube. And if you look at your grid, if you set everything up right, there should be a middle spot here that we can click on to place our sphere. Now mine is 5 millimeters across. Yours might be different, it might be 4 millimeters. So let's change it to 5 millimeters and press OK. Now you'll notice that this sphere is red. That's because it's going to cut into the box. It's going to make a divot in the box. If you were to look from the side, you can see that that sphere is halfway inside and halfway outside of our box. So I'm going to hit OK, and now you can see I've got that little divot there, and I've got the one side of my dice set. So now I'm going to have to do the rest of them. So the right side, if I click this arrow here in the upper right, it switches from front to right, or you can go back to the view cube and look around. There's the right face. We want to place 2 pips. So create sphere, and I will do one on that face right there. Okay. and create sphere on this face. I'll do it right there. Okay. And then we've got 2 set. Now let's switch to the back. So on the back, we're going to do 6 spheres. So we will do create sphere. I'll do there. There is a faster way to create a bunch of spheres at once, but we won't worry about that right now. That's a little further away. So we're just going to keep clicking on the face, and I am using the grid to place my spheres and have them kind of sort of lined up. Each time, click create, I choose sphere, I click on the surface, and I click on the spot I want it to be, and I press OK. If that little menu gets in your way, you can just move it by grabbing the left side. So I press OK. So there's that. Now we want to do the left side. The left side is going to have 5 dots. So create sphere, put it in the middle. OK. Create sphere. Let's put it in the bottom left. Create sphere on that face, upper right. Create sphere on the face, upper left. Create sphere on the face, lower right. Now we've got 5. And that's all of the horizontal faces. 1, 2, 6, and 5 for front, right, back, and left. So now we need to do the top. So let's click on top. And on the top, we want to do 3. So create sphere, click on the top surface, click in the center, OK. Create sphere, click on it, put it in the corner. Create sphere, click on the surface, click in the upper right corner, press OK. And then we've got that one done. Now we just cycle our way to the bottom, and on the bottom we'll do 4. So create sphere, click on the surface, and put it there. Create sphere. Create sphere. And create sphere. And then you go to the home view, and then you're done. And you have all of your faces. And you can take a screenshot of your home view showing 1, 2, and 3 of your faces for your skill check to be completed.